the relative drugs. So atacoids and related drugs. So by this we are going to finish the autonomic nervous system, and we are going to the another this thing atacoids and the related drugs are concerned. What's an atacoid? Atacoid is the term divided from Greek. Atos means self and ekos means healing or self-healing remedy. And these are diverse substances produced by a wide variety of the cells in the body and having intense biological activity, but generally act locally. That's the within inflammatory packets at the site of synthesis and release. So the atacoids are they are self-generated healing remedies, and there are wide varieties of the atacoids are present in the body, and they do have very intense biological activity, but all of them act locally. That's why they are known as the local hormones. So they differ from hormones in two important ways, because the hormones are produced by the specific cells and are transported through circulation to act on distant target cells. That means the hormones or the glands secreting the hormones are far away from the secretion site. That means of course, it's not a strict definition, but there is a difference between the atacoid and the regular hormones. These are all the local hormones. So hormones are produced by specific cells and they are transported to circulation to act on the distinct target tissues, whereas the atacoids are involved in a number of physiological and pathological processes, especially reaction to injury and immunological insult. So whenever there is a hypersensitivity and other thing, lot of local hormones are produced. Maybe a histamine, serotonin, bradykinin, and so many things are there. So they are also released locally, the histamine being the most important one. And some atacoids in addition serve as transmitters or modulators in nervous system, but their role at many sites is not precisely not now. So many types, these eicosanoids, the prostaglandins, and many of them are very commonly noted the atacoids. A number of useful drugs by modifying their action and metabolism. Why we have to learn the natural process of these atacoids is to either we can interfere with the production, synthesis, the receptors at different level. The pharmacological intervention is possible so that we can modify the receptor level action and get the required type of the action whenever there is a very high dose of the atacoid, which is going to be harmful to the body. And coming to the classification of atacoid, please see this very carefully so that you can remember it. And sometimes you can paste it on the wall poster, like a wall poster. The examples are the amine atacoids, the lipid-derived atacoids, then peptide atacoids, and many other atacoids which are not belonging to any other category. So the amine atacoids are histamine and serotonin, or histamine and 5-HT. Both of these are amines because in the chemical structure the amide group is present, whereas the lipid-derived atacoids, which are derived from the fat, especially the fat tissue, and just like the cholesterol, they are all derived. And the classical examples of this category are the prostaglandins, leukotrienes, platelet activating factor, or PAF. The another classification is peptide atacoids, and the few of the examples of this category are the plasma kinins, bradykinin, and angiotensin. Whereas the other atacoids which are not belonging to the very specific chemical classifications are the gastric atacoids like gastrin and cytokines, etc. So cytokines like interleukins and tumor necrosis factor alpha, and peptides like gastrin, somatostatin, VIP or vasoactive intestinal polypeptide, or nitric oxide, and many others may be considered as atacoid nowadays. Recently, all these substances are noted as the different atacoids. And coming to the very important autocoid, that's the foremost important is the histamine, and histamine means tissue amine, or hista means tissue, and the histose means tissue. So it's a tissue derived amine present in animal tissue and certain plants. Just like the stinging nettle, it's a plant which is containing very high quantity of the histamine. And of course, it's studied by Sir Henry Dale in the beginning of 20th century, and its role in allergic reaction was very specifically studied, especially the type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. Lot of the histamines are released from the mast cell, and it was implicated as a mediator of hypersensitivity phenomenon and tissue injury reaction. And histamine is present mostly within storage granules of the mast cell, MAST cells, mast cells, and tissue rich with histamines are the skin, gastric and duodenal mucosa, lungs, liver and placenta are the tissues very rich in histamine. And some of the non-mast cell histamine occurs in case of the brain. In case of brain, it is directly secreted. So the epidermis, sometimes the gastric mucosa and growing regions. And turnover of the mast cell histamine is very slow, while that of the non-mast cell histamine is very fast. Means the destruction, dissipation of all these released histamine is very fast in case of non-mast cell site. Histamine is also present in blood, mostly most body serotonin secretions, venoms and pathological fluids is present. Whereas you can see this plant as a Urtica dioica, it's also known as, the general name is stinging nettle, or in Kannada it is called as the Turachi Gida. So if any person touches this plant, he will get lot of allergies. So that's why the plants also do contain the histamine in natural form. And these are the situation in which there is histamines are released to a greater extent. Number one is the hay fever. The two is the food allergy, and the skin allergy are the very common phenomenon that are induced by histaminergic release. Whereas the food allergies occur in 5% of the patients, and skin allergy in 20% of the patients, and hay fever. So there's very varieties of the allergies are there, and this is varying from 5% to 12%. Of course, a few of the anaphylactic reactions are also included in this particular category is concerned. How this synthesis, just like adrenaline, how it is synthesized from the adrenaline, noradrenaline and dopamine, all these synthesized, stored and destructed. We have learned all those things in very detail in autonomic pharmacology, whereas histamine is a beta imidazolyl ethyl amine, and it is synthesized locally from amino acid histidine and is degraded rapidly by oxidation and methylation. So just like monoamine oxidase enzymes, and also monoamine oxidases and catechol-O-methyl transferase, which is going to destruct the adrenaline or noradrenaline. Similar pattern, the histamine is also degraded to certain metabolites. In mast cells, histamine is held by an acidic, what do you call as protein, acidic protein, and heparin are negatively charged within intracellular granules. When the granules are extruded by exocytosis, sodium ions in extracellular fluid exchange with histamine to release it free. And increase in intracellular cyclic AMP caused by beta adrenergic agonists and methylxanthines inhibit the histamine released. And histamine is inactive orally because the liver degrades all histamine that is absorbed from the intestine. So we are lucky that even though we are consuming the histamines through many of the vegetable sources, we are not going to be affected with the histamine because it is not at all absorbed from the intestine. So because it is the liver is the one which degrades them. And the histamine receptors, there are four types of the histamine receptors, and they are very clearly classified: H1, H2, H3, and H4. Very similar to that of the alpha and beta receptor. They are classified from H1 to H4 type of the receptors. And here you can see the histidine is the basic one. Histidine is the one which is going to histidine decarboxylase is the enzyme. Please see this thing because this is very important. Histidine and decarboxylase, then histamine is going to occur directly. This is the structure of the histamine. Histamine. Then the histamine N-methyl transferase enzyme is going to convert it to N-methyl histamine, and the diamine oxidase is going to convert it to imidazole acetic acid. Whereas the monoamine oxidase, which is usually present, and this enzyme is going to what you call as change the N-methyl histamine to methyl imidazole acetic acid, and this is the one which is secreted out of the body and with the help of, and also the imidazole acetic acid. Both of these are secreted in the urine. And here you can once again you can see that histidine is converted to histamine, and histamine is converted to N-methyl histamine with the help of the N-methyl transferase enzyme, and the monoamine oxidase enzyme is going to convert the N-methyl histamine to methyl imidazole acetic acid, whereas the diamine oxidase is going to convert the histamine to imidazole acetic acid, that is going to be secreted. That's how the synthesis and the storage and destruction of the histidine. And here varieties of the classifications are there. Of course, the selective antagonists and agonists are noted in this, particularly the H1 and H2. 2-methyl histamine are active on the H1 receptor, whereas the H2 type of the receptors are H1 and H3. They are present in different tissues and going to be acted on the body. And yeah, so many drugs are also acting, and please remember this particular chart like H2, dimaprit, and H3, alpha methyl histamine. These are all the selective agonists on H1 and H2 type of the receptors. Whereas the selective antagonists of the particular type of the H1 and H2 are the H1 meperamine meliate and chlorpheniramine meliate are these very specific H1 receptor antagonists, whereas the cimetidine, ranitidine, famotidine, all these tidines are very specific H2 receptor antagonists, whereas the H3 is thioperamide, imipramide, then thiloprosine are the receptors, and the receptor type is most of the H1 to H4 type of the receptors are G-protein coupled receptors, whereas the effector pathway is brought about by PIP2, phosphoinositol diphosphate, and IP3 diacylglycerol, then adenylyl cyclase activation will be seen, especially in case of H2 type of the receptors, whereas H3 detection of calcium influx and potassium channel activation will be present, whereas the distribution of the H1 is present in the smooth muscles, intestine, airway, uterus, whereas also it's present in the blood vessels and the endothelium. Release of nitric oxide or EDRF is there, and PGI2, which causes vasodilatation and winding up of the gap junctions. Of course, the smooth muscles of larger vessels, there is vasoconstriction is there, and it acts as a neurotransmitter in the brain, whereas the H2 type of the receptor, they are present on the gastric glands and acid secretion is initiated, whereas they are also present on certain blood vessels and causes the dilatation of the blood vessels, blood dilatation. And heart, atria, positive chronotropy, ventricles, it causes the positive inotropy. The uterus, in case of rats, its relaxation is done, and the brain, it's acting as a neurotransmitter. Whereas the H3 type of the receptors are distributed in case of brain, then lung, spleen, skin, gastric mucosa, and decrease histamine release. Whereas certain blood vessels inhibit noradrenaline release and vasoconstriction. So here varieties of the histamine release receptors are being shown here, and you can see that the receptors are classified as H1 to H4, and also the location of most of the H1 receptor is throughout the body. They are present specifically in smooth muscles or vascular endothelial cells and the heart, etc. It's a G protein coupled receptor, and the H2 is very specifically present in the gastric parietal cells, whereas it's also a G protein coupled receptor and increases the release of gastric acid, H2 receptors, whereas it is going to be cause the stomach ulcers, and the treatment can be done by administering ranitidine and nizatidine and many H2 receptor antagonists, whereas the H3 type of the receptors are mostly found in central nervous system with a high level in the thalamus. So most of the H3 are located on the brain, and they are all the G protein coupled receptor. Natural presynaptic receptor may function to release histamine, and there are no diseases found to be associated with H3 type of the receptor, whereas the H4 type of receptors are discovered in 2000, and they are widely expressed in the components of immune system such as spleen, thymus, and leukocytes. So it is also maybe a G protein coupled receptors, and many things, the effect, etc., are not known. So in addition to benefiting the allergic condition, research in the H4 receptor may lead to treatment of autoimmune disease. All just like the why we have to study the receptor subtypes is how we can intervene the receptor activity to benefit in a disease treatment situation. That's how it is important for us. So tomorrow we are going to learn about the pharmacological actions of all the type of the receptors.